morning, one and all. It is 6 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Garden America. Thank you to those who are tuned in bright and early. We really appreciate it. It is Saturday morning or maybe Saturday afternoon, depending upon where you are. The boys are back in town, back in the studio. Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. And again, guys, if you read the our Facebook page, John, you know that it's going to be a great show in caps.
That's because of our guest, right?
Yeah, I thought he is worth all capital great.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about Ed Livo is you never wonder, what can I talk to him about?
No, here's the thing about Ed Livo. Tiger will ask the first question, and then 20 minutes later, his second question. Because Ed is revved up. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
Very good with details.
And he knows what he's talking about.
Exactly.
Those are the kind of guests we like.
Yeah. So, we're excited to talk drought and fruit trees here coming up.
Right.
Even parts of the country that normally don't have drought, like when we were in England, remember, they were going through a drought.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, a drought to them is like 25 inches of rain versus 40 or something like that.
But the problem with their droughts is they don't have irrigation, right?
Exactly. So it's either hand water or those whirly sprinklers out there. So, but there was, the East Coast was under a heat advisory just last week.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So there's a lot of areas aside from California and the West that do go through droughts, and they have to consider about their trees and their plants during those times as well, because their plants are accustomed to 30 inches of rain, 20 inches of rain, and if they don't get that, then the plants suffer.
At the same time, a week or so ago, Denver under snow.
Yeah.
Lots of snow.
Yeah.
Cold front moved in.
Lisa up in Redding says that they got rain last night.
Nice. What if that rain is headed down here?
I don't know, but it's really cool. And Tanya up in San Jose says that their weather's cooled off a little too. I'm really happy it's cool today because I planted... The last 2 days, I planted 100 roses, 6 plumeria, and about 10 shade trees.
Nice.
And then some smaller plants that I got at your nursery.
But you refused to touch an auger.
I had people helping me because the auger they used was 200 pounds. It was a 2-man auger, and there's no way I could even do half of it.
And
they were doing it on hillside, so I'm surprised nobody got hurt.
What was the root ball that they dug up?
Well, I planted one rose that had grown into the ground, and the problem was the root that grew into the ground was maybe about 2 inches thick.
Oh.
And when I dug that up in Del Mar a couple years ago, that it had a thick root, and it took probably an hour to dig it out of the ground. We put it in a container, and it sat without a leaf for probably 3 months, and I thought it might have died. But it grew, and so this time I didn't want to cut that root off. I wanted to get as much as I could. And it's one of only 2 plants in the United States.
Oh.
The other one's in Virginia, and it came from me. So I think we've told that story before, so we won't go into it again. But anyway, we planted all those roses, and then we planted an African hill that has some protea and those acacias that we were talking about prior to the show. So anyway, I'm excited because now, rather than just a weed field, my house is starting to look like there's landscaping going on.
Well, at least take a few pictures the way it is right now. Then at the very end, when it's done, we can see the difference.
That's the very least I could do, right?
Exactly. It's just the way, even though you've already started, kind of take a picture now.
Yeah, especially on trees. There was one tree I planted, which I'm trying to think of the species now. It's a Vachellia, one of the thorn trees. And this one I planted across the driveway because there's no irrigation there, down by Jesse's house.
Uh-huh.
And the reason I put it there was it said that after the tree had rooted, it never needed water again, ever. So I'm thinking if I get it through this first year.
Never needs water ever again.
Yeah. It's an interesting tree because this particular one, as it grows, it has vertical branches that, instead of spreading out, they go straight to the ground. And what happens is the wild animals, the grazing animals in Africa, eat those lower branches, and it forces the tree to branch up higher.
Oh, okay.
So eventually, the tree has branches that no one can get to except maybe a giraffe.
Yeah. But now yours won't, so we'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
yours
What yours
we
will
have
look like.
no wild
We
animals.
don't have any giraffes.
No grazing animals
What is the
in our
wildest
area.
animal you may have around there? Coyote?
There's 14 less squirrels than there used to be 2 weeks ago.
They're living in a much better place, Tiger.
I have rabbits living under my shed, and I have squirrels too.
We had a rabbit right outside our window last night. The cats were going crazy. I mean,
Oh,
like
wow.
a foot from the window.
Oh, I bet you the
Oh,
cats were
their
going crazy.
tails were going all like this, and then it was a great show.
If your cat though got a rabbit, would it know what to do?
I don't know. You know what?
Yeah, it would freak out.
They think they would know.
Yeah.
But they don't.
Yeah.
You know, they've never been outside at all.
We have a nursery cat that
Yeah.
catches wild things and brings it to us all the time. Mice, gophers, birds.
Disgruntled customers.
Yeah, exactly. Just drags it into the cash register area.
Now-
So yeah, Critter is what we call her.
Just the one cat, right?
Yeah, just the one, because she adopted us. We didn't adopt her. One day she just started coming to the nursery and just never left. And
You
she,
feed her?
Yeah, feed her, and then we got her chipped and all that stuff. So now she's our cat. But we call her Critter because she was a wild cat and very skittish in the beginning. Now she can care less about people and just sits right in the middle of the walkway.
Right. That's
So funny.
interesting. But it still catches what? Mice, rats, whatever?
Right? Yeah, all that stuff.
Occasionally?
Yeah.
Outstanding.
The last cat that we have was our neighbor's cat, or we had was our neighbor's cat.
Who adopted you and left
She
your
would
neighbor?
only go next door to eat, and she would stay at our house the rest of the time.
Aren't they something? You know,
Yeah.
they're just like, whatever I want to do, I'm going to do it. It's got to be their idea.
Hey, we have a plant that is in the shots. If you're
Tiger's
watching,
close-up shot. Yeah, John, what is that?
yeah, it is a. Let's see, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so it doesn't sound like sun-kissed, because it's Soncus or Suncus.
Soncus barreitis, right?
No, palmensis.
Oh, palmensis.
Yeah, and palmensis, means like a palm tree, right?
And Tiger's pointing to it right now. To your right, to his left.
It looks really strange in the shot, Tiger. But the common name for it is dandelion tree.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Tiger pointed out today, because I gave him one for Christmas, and he said he planted his in the ground, so his bloomed earlier.
Yeah.
And he said that he could see the name because when the tree goes to seed,
Yeah.
it has dandelion puffs on it.
Yeah, I thought it was dandelion tree because of the flowers. Because the
Right.
flowers do look like dandelion flowers too.
Right.
But then when I saw it went to seed,
Right.
and the way it goes to seed with those white
Puffs.
puffs of seeds, I'm like, oh yeah, it definitely is, in the same looking in that regard as well.
And the one
you
that
said
I
it
have here,
reseeds real
yeah, the one I
easily.
have here is came up from a seed from the plant that I gave you.
Yeah. So this is going to just be seeding all over my yard now?
No, they're not invasive. The one that I gave you had gone to seed, and so probably hundreds of those seeds went everywhere, right? This was the only plant that came up.
Okay.
So, and even if one did come up and you didn't want it, you just pull it out.
Pull them out, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Mine is planted on a hillside behind our our gazebo area, and I'm balancing the water because I have that ficus, or not ficus, the podocarpus hedge behind it,
Right.
which I water regularly. I want them to grow. But I found that this will get overwatered real easily there too. So I just don't water it at all, and it
Oh.
seems to be fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, Ken in San Diego wants to know what nursery you have.
I just wrote it on there. Mission Hills
Mission
Nursery.
Hills Nursery.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right below Ken.
I see it.
Hey, Ken.
I jumped on that
Thanks
right
for
away.
asking.
Thank you. Yes, Ken. Well, hopefully, Ken is in the area, hopefully, to drop by.
Hopefully. Yeah, the nursery's looking great right now. Right now, I feel no matter where you're at, if you go to a garden center, you're going to get some of the best volume of plants, variety of plants, inventory in general, because everybody should be pretty well stocked at this point in time. And on the West Coast, we start
What
to
about fruit
drop.
trees, though?
We have a lot. Matter
Really?
of fact, we just got in a whole other shipment from Laverne. Laverne? Yeah.
Laverne?
Uh-huh.
We got to take a break. I'm sorry. Speaking of
no
fruit
worries.
trees, we got Ed Livo coming up right after the break.
Perfect.
Fruit trees, John's quote of the week coming up.
Oh,
Ed
okay.
Livo, more fruit trees, more of your questions, your comments on Facebook Live. Welcome to those on Biz Talk Radio. Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox. Welcome to Garden America. Happy weekend. We're going to take a break, bring on Ed Livo, talking fruit trees. And as I mentioned, John's quote, more of Garden America after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. All righty, we are back from the break, our Biz Talk Radio break, and our shorter Facebook Live break. Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox on your long Memorial Day weekend. So happy Memorial Day to you as we get back to it. Ed Livo standing by. John, your quote of the week, and then we'll toss to Tiger. Bring on Ed.
Before we do the quote, though, Ken had a question about his queen palms, Tiger. And he said that he's losing queen palms from the beetle. And he lives in Escondido, anything to do, but I didn't know there were any problems with queen palms. I wonder if he means Canary Island date palm.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's what it is.
The South American palm weevil is what's creating problems with the Canary Island or Canary palms, and so on the queen palm, it might be something else. I mean, these beetles can attack queen palms or any palm in general, but they much more prefer the canary palm. So if you give us an update, if you know exactly the variety of palm, because if it's a queen palm, it might be something else causing the problem, not the weevil. But if it's a Canary Island palm, then it is the weevil, and there's really nothing you can do. They've come out with a few treatments.
They're expensive, though, right?
Very expensive, and it's also one of those things, if it's already too far gone,
right,
they can't do anything about it. And, that point of too far gone is tough for the arborist to decide at this moment in time. So it just kind of depends on the value of the tree to you versus the treatment, and be willing to lose all of that value down the road, if that's the case.
I know there's a systemic that they shoot into the root system.
Right.
And then they try a topical spray too, right?
Right, exactly. So, I mean, if it's a canary palm, though, sometimes those are worth a lot of money. They're worth keeping.
Yeah, queen
to
palm,
you.
not so much.
Yeah, and queen palm, you can
you
can tear it out and replant it, and in 5 years you'd have the same
Tiger
thing.
has or Brian, you have a couple you
It's
could
huge.
give him.
Yeah, they're huge. Yeah.
Exactly.
20 feet. All right, John, the quote of the week.
And I picked this quote because Ed is our guest today, and the quote is from Martin Luther. And he said that even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree.
There you go. Excellent quote. Okay, the man himself is standing by, Tiger. Ed Livo. Those on Facebook Live, questions, comments as we bring on Ed.
Yeah, so, a familiar guest to our program, Ed Livo, specializes in fruit trees, in trees in general, and plants in general with us as he comments on our Facebook feed from time to time. But we thought we'd have him here in a more formal aspect because as we get into the summertime, drought is going to be a hot topic all through the West and, like I had mentioned before the break, other parts of the country. So we thought we'd bring the expert Ed Livo to join us to talk about drought and our fruit trees. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning.
Hey, Ed, quick question for you. You're with Birchill Nurseries, but the more retail name is Tomorrow's Harvest. How would you like us to refer to you guys at this moment? Tomorrow's Harvest or Birchill Nurseries?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's Tomorrow's Harvest at Birchill Nursery. I mean, by Birchill Nursery, whatever. But Tomorrow's Harvest is our retail site. And I might add, too, that, we grow a heck of a wholesale fruit tree there, Tiger.
Yeah, definitely. We do. Right now, why can't I think of it? Dave Wilson has a monopoly on the market down here, but we're totally willing to look at other options for sure.
Yeah. I mean, those are my colleagues. My history with Dave Wilson goes back, and I have all the love and appreciation for Dave Wilson. But, I am employed by Birchill Nursery, and we are putting together quite an impressive retail program of fruit trees. And this year, I think, pretty good evidence of that. We're, shipping fruit trees out everywhere. And, I'm downsizing. I'm going into the 3 gallons. I like those for shippability. And boy, I'll tell you what, we're growing some beautiful trees there. Tiger just wanted to plant that seed.
Yeah.
As John said, you always want to plant that apple. So.
Good one. Well done, Ed. Well, thank you for joining us this morning, Ed. As I mentioned, we do have drought on our radar here in California. I think it's just a matter of time before the state and different municipalities start putting restrictions on people, start trying to get people to save more water, which is a good thing to do in general. But when it comes to fruit trees, we don't want to cut back too much, right?
Well, there's a certain reality I think that everybody has to face, and that is that water conservation relative to what we can expect the nature to do, is becoming quite a challenge. And I think that incorporating everything you can, every tool you can at your advantage, to be able to take and manage, the fruit trees, the landscape plants that you choose, and in selecting landscape plants, what you want to do with them, what types you're planting, all those things. I mean, it's becoming a complicated state to grow in, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you'd mentioned, though, when you're selecting the kind of plants, the irrigation system has to you need the irrigation system to go in with them, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think irrigation systems, and our ability to get such, accurate measurements and systems for measuring our water usage, I think that those are all tools that you should incorporate into your garden early in the development, or if you haven't already, start looking at, things like, I think clock, and being able to take and manage, how much water you're putting on where and when, those are so important now in California, because if you have to regulate, a certain volume of water, throughout your plants, then you're going to have to take and go how little water, and this is something that I've always professed. The act of growing a fruit tree isn't how much water does this tree need, it's how little water does it take to keep this tree healthy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's probably more evident now than ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you and I talked earlier, and, it's finding that point where you get production, you get a healthy tree, but then you're not putting the tree through stress, because when you put the tree through stress, you're going to get you're going to have to either tear the tree out because maybe you've killed it, or is going to take more work to bring back that tree than, what it's worth, rather than just kind of buying a new one and replanting it sometimes. And some of these trees have been in yards for decades, kind of a thing, right, Ed?
Oh, yeah. But, but keep in mind, the plants and fruit trees in general are phenomenal. For instance, I was up examining pear varieties up around Sutter's Mill, okay? These pears were planted probably, in the 1840s, maybe
Wow.
1850s.
Wow.
And, granted, a lot of them were rootstock, but they were still there. But there were a lot of these pear varieties that still existed there, and they wanted them identified. I didn't have a clue, to tell you the truth. They were all pretty old, probably, pretty much gone varieties of pears, but they weren't existing with any kind of extra irrigation whatsoever. They were pretty much on their own. So, again, it's phenomenal how
they can do by themselves. Yeah, Ed, hey, sorry to cut you off. We are going to have to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll continue chatting with Ed Livo from Tomorrow's Harvest, Birchville Nurseries.
And, of course, stay with us. Questions, comments right there on Facebook Live. Those on Biz Talk Radio, welcome. We're going to take a break and come back, I should say, after your messages on Biz Talk Radio. Stay with us. And just like that, we are back. Those on Biz Talk Radio, thank you for supporting the show, listening to our sponsors. And again, a reminder, those on Biz Talk Radio, this is last week's show, pre-recorded. You can always check us out, listen to us live, watch us live on Facebook, 6 minutes after 8 o'clock on the West Coast. If you're Eastern time zone, that's 11:06, and everywhere else in between, Mountain Time, Central Time, so on and so forth. Had to cut off Ed Live, but we hate to do that, Tiger, but we are back after the break.
Yeah, and Ed was just describing an area that he was looking at for pears, Sutter's Mill area, and these pears have been there for a couple hundred years, surviving by themselves, right, Ed? So when we talk,
yeah, actually, they were there, since the discovery of gold, or planted somewhere in that proximity, and so many of these, what would you call it? They were orchards that supported the miners throughout the foothills. They're all up there kind of, they're old and they're decrepit and they've not been cared for. But the trees, in many cases, are still producing, fruit and with little care. And I think my point is that, managing, trees and managing fruit trees with little water is possible if you have to get through an extended period of dry. But you really have to utilize some of the, some of the techniques to help us, or to help the tree survive without too much damage, let's say, to your point about stress.
hey, I got a question. If you know anything about this phenomenon, I know it does happen to fruit trees as well sometimes, where when you might have that orange or that lemon that's been sitting there uncared for many, 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 many years, and then somebody moves into the home and they love it. And they're like, oh, I got a lemon tree. I'm going to start to really take care of it. So they start to put water on it. They start to put fertilizer on it. And it almost has a negative effect on the tree. Have you seen that? Do you have any familiar? Are you familiar with that at all? Where you have to kind of ease into it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when trees, and it's ironic how often you see citrus growing in places where you can see that there's probably no irrigation at all, and the tree's just doing fine. It's usually that it's in some proximity to where water is available, because trees' roots are smart, man. That's the brain of the tree. They go find what they need where they need it, and but citrus is pretty amazing in terms of being drought tolerant once it's established.
Yeah, and so if somebody has one of these trees that they, like I say, a lot of people are moving into homes, and the tree's been there before the home was built, kind of a thing. What do you recommend for them to kind of start to take care of that tree, but at the same time not overdo it?
Oh, I mean, first and utmost, I mean, it's mulch.
Uh-huh.
I think mulch becomes one of your key tools in water management. It's keeping the root cool. I mean, there's a lot of physical things that are actually achieved with using mulch, but cutting down on water usage just by cutting down the evaporation of water from the surface. I mean, that in itself, extends the time, can extend the time between watering, and of course the amount of water that you need to use. So mulch, I think, that's the new buzzword for gardening anything is mulch. I mean, how many people do you know that when you mention mulch, they kind of look at you with a glazed look over their face, like,
yeah,
mulch? What?
Hey.
And in this day and age, I mean, I think it's just one of those things. The first thing that you should be handed with your first plant is, something as a top dressing.
Yeah, and can you be a little bit more specific in terms of mulch? Because, when we talk mulch, it can get a little bit confusing. I mean, people think bark, and then, even within bark, they think the nuggets, and then they have the red and the black and the brown dyed stuff that you can buy at the box stores. And then there's shredded redwood materials. And then there is mulch where, it is actually composted down mulch that you can pick up as well. So what kind of product do you recommend, or do you kind of think that people should consider, and should they not consider, other ones?
Well, I mean, it depends. Like I do vegetable gardening, and I do fruit trees, of course. And in the fruit trees, man, I love to get, just that the shredded tree trimmings from a good tree service or local municipality that deals with that. Just to put it on the surface, and I replenish it probably twice a season if needed. But I mean, I don't fertilize my fruit trees at all. They've had heavy mulch on them for 10, 15 years, and they're healthy as can be. They don't need anything extra whatsoever, because the mulch, of course, then starts to break down and not only acts as a conservation to conserve water, but it also acts as a means of eliminating having to use extra fertilizers.
Yeah, and fertilizers, again, are kind of a big thing because John here in the program kind of is an advocate for a lot of the nutrients that plants need are in our soil already.
Yeah.
We don't need to add too much. And so just adding that compost level, that, leafy greens that are going to break down, add nitrogen soil, add a little bit of phosphorus, the trees kind of have what they need already. It's just more making it active, because that mulch also creates that life in the soil as well, aside from the saving of the water, the putting in a little bit of nutrients. But we're talking mycorrhiza, we're talking earthworms, we're talking all kinds of beneficial stuff that go along with the mulch, right?
Oh yeah, and I've got the epitome of poor ground here, because I'm butt up against the Black Diamond Hills in the Bay Area of San Francisco, and they've mined coal out of these hills. They've mined silica sand for glass out of these hills. I have veins of sand that run through my yard that are like talcum powder, and it turns to concrete during the summer.
Wow.
But in essence, I've worked with the soil by mulching and composting for all the time I've been here, and it supports all the things that I do in my yard.
Yeah. It's funny. John was commenting at the beginning of the show, getting some work done around his house, and they used an auger, a 2-man auger, to dig the holes.
Yeah.
And I always watch the infomercials on TV, and they have like the augers and the tiller that they're trying to sell to like the homeowner. And obviously they're in some home in the Midwest where it's like loamy, fertile soil. This tiller's just moving through it swiftly. And the one person auger is just digging so easily, and this black soil is coming out of the hole. I'm like, obviously that is not California, because I don't know one part of California that you can use that without that auger bouncing off of a piece of granite or something.
I forgot to mention that after using the two-man auger to get halfway down, the rest of the way needed a jackhammer.
Exactly. So
yeah, that's and then plus we also have our hard pans that run, somewhere around 8 to 18 inches deep, and those hard pans in many cases are impervious. And so, it's kind of like I always point out that you can have a tree, on one side, a tree on the other side, and they both do fine, but the tree in the middle dies, and that's because you can't see the strata of the hard pan underneath. It's actually collecting water because it tends to dip, and it's creating a pool where the roots try to grow in that middle tree, or wherever. And it happens in hedgerows, and there's a lot of these different examples of our wonderful strata in California.
Yeah, and I mean, as we mentioned all of these things, the different soils and even the different soils on your property, make it difficult to find that watering schedule. And before you had mentioned, hooking your irrigation system up to a clock where you can monitor it, where you can manage it. Maybe you can adjust the bubbler heads. This one can water a little bit more. This one can water a little bit less. Hey, we're going to have to take a break here in about a minute. But I do want to get some info from you, Ed, also in terms of what are some signs of stress on the tree? Meaning, as we get into the summer months, what are some things that people need to watch out for? Because we're going to have to cut back our water. We're going to have to make some adjustments. But I think people need to also know if they see this happening, they need to start making other adjustments because ultimately you can end up losing the tree. So we're going to come back here. We're going to continue chatting with Ed Libo from Birch Hill Nurseries, and we're talking fruit trees.
Absolutely. And again, those on Facebook Live, questions, comments, Talking Fruit Trees, Talking Fruit with Ed Livo. And again, Biz Talk Radio, tune in live every Saturday morning, as we mentioned, 6 minutes after 8 o'clock on the West Coast, Eastern Time Zone, 11:06. Today's show will be uploaded on YouTube by early afternoon Pacific time. So do stay with us. As Tiger mentioned, going to take a break. Back with Ed Livo after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. We are Garden America. That is us. That is our show. Brian Main, John Begnasco, and, of course, Tiger Palafox. We're talking fruit trees today with Ed Livo, our very special guest, and a lot of great information. So those on Facebook Live, feel free. Questions, comments for Ed Livo, and we'll continue right now, Tiger, and pick up where we left off with Ed.
Yeah, so, Ed, before we left, I was kind of getting you ready to answer the question about what are some things that people can see happening to their trees that they really need to start worrying about. They've taken away too much water.
Well, the classic would be wilting, of course. But then, just previous to trees starting to wilt, they'll kind of get a little bit of a discoloration, to the leaf. The leaf just won't glisten. And so that's always an early indicator. I think that comes with kind of training your eye to watch for that. But I think for the average homeowner, trying to get a handle on how much water is enough water really means working with your trees during the season, so regularly kind of going out and checking to see just before your water system runs, dig down into your soil profile around where you're concerned about water and see what the soil looks like. Is it wet? If it's wet, then you need to cut back or you need to extend the time on your clock. If it's, moderately wet, you got to decide, well, is that affecting the tree? Can I extend the time on the clock? And then if it's dry, then of course maybe you need, to pull back and water a little more frequently. So I think that every single experience for a homeowner, and I mean my neighbor will have a different experience because they have different exposures than I do. And I think every individual has to take and key in and dial in, the effects of their environment on, their plants in their yard. And so it takes working with your soil.
Okay. But definitely watching out for the wilting, the discoloration, the leaf drop.
Fruit drop can be an early sign. Around this time of the year, though, you get a thing called June fruit drop, which is real common, and that's just the tree kind of, thinning itself, a self-thinning that occurs in some trees. And sometimes that can be stimulated by the tree being underwatered, because that will be an indicator to the tree that, hey, I can't support, the crop that I have on here, so I should eliminate some.
Yeah, and one thing you and I kind of discussed earlier this week, Ed, was also, people need to start considering for their own sake, water capture systems. We don't get a lot of rain, but if they do capture some amount of what they do get and then can use it later on, that could decrease the amount of water, A, that you're buying, but B, it also is a little bit different than the normal city or well water, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's rainwater, man. It's pure, or as pure as it can get. I mean, have you ever noticed that after a rainstorm in the spring, your garden kind of comes to life?
Yeah, definitely. It is. It's so true.
I'm always so happy when I get just enough rain in the spring, and all of a sudden, everything I planted just seems to go.
Yeah.
I don't care what kind of fertilizer I put on that season. That rainwater that comes in the spring just seems to have some magic to it. But yeah, I collect about 1,000 gallons a year.
Yeah. Yeah,
myself.
And I had mentioned, for anybody that is growing an avocado, they love the rainwater because. Especially here in San Diego, our water has a lot of salts in it, a lot of other chemicals in it. And that's avocados, they get the burned tips on the foliage, and they have other issues. But if you can use the rainwater on it, that will actually sustain that avocado a little bit better, right?
Yeah, and then, you can use your captured water kind of as a supplement. I use it mainly in my vegetable gardens for my starts and, to do my seedlings and things like that. And, it's 1,000 gallons. I mean, what the heck? I mean, that's not going to save, it's not going to preserve a reservoir or anything like that. But the contribution to my wallet is pretty good because that's 1,000 gallons of water I'm not going to pay for, number one. Number two is it kind of allows me to I've noticed that my seedlings, once in the ground and in my pots when I'm creating my seeds, plants, they seem to do better with the rainwater than they do with the chlorinated water coming out of the tap. So I've noticed that through the years. So I've just leaned towards, using the rainwater in that capacity. But like you say, you could use it as a leach in between waterings. You could go in on your avocados and hit it with the rainwater out of your rain capture system. I think that's a splendid idea.
Yeah. So lots of good ways to also capture water aside from just trying to decrease your water usage. So mulching, irrigation system on a controller to be able to kind of manage how often and how much you're watering. Capture some water. What are anything else that you recommend to people as they kind of head into the summer? Maybe not necessarily on the watering, Ed, but just summer fruit tree tips.
Oh yeah, boy, the most important of all, and that is size control of your fruit trees. Keep in mind, a big giant tree uses a lot of water, and if you keep your trees, let's say under 10 feet, my trees are all under 8 feet. If you keep your trees under 8 feet, or however short you can keep them, they're going to use less water. I mean, that's just a fact. And you still, of course, aren't going to suffer for, a lack of fruit. I mean, I would love to have somebody come help me thin for the third time on the trees that I have in my yard, because it just seems like, every time I go back to them, I wonder whether or not the last time I thinned was last year. I was just forgetting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, size control on fruit trees is so important. And, not only that, you save water, but you get to enjoy more fruit in your yard as well, because you can fit more trees, if you're maintaining the trees under 10 feet tall.
All right.
That's
all right. Fun. Lots of great tips, lots of good information. Again, Ed Livo, Tomorrow's Harvest is the website by Birchall Nursery, where you can find a lot of these fruit trees. A lot of good tips on that website as well that are produced by Ed, right, Ed?
Yeah, you bet. I've been writing articles on drought under Roots Matters. It's our blog, and I've written about 3 articles. I've got another one I'm gonna publish here pretty quick on different emitter types and things that I recommend for fruit trees as well.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Ed. Have a great rest of the Memorial Day weekend.
Hey,
and
the same.
take care.
Thanks for having me.
All
You
right.
got it.
Bye-bye.
Ed Livo and a lot of great information. And hopefully you can take some of that, digest it, watch the show back, any information that you may have missed. Okay, those on Biz Talk Radio News coming up top of the hour. We are back at 6 minutes after, if indeed your market does carry us for the second hour or both hours, and that's what we always hope for. Tiger Palafox, John Begnasco, I'm Brian Main. Welcome to Garden America. Stay with us. We're going to be back after the news and these messages on Biz Talk Radio. All righty, we are back live on Garden America. Those on Biz Talk Radio, welcome. This is hour number 2. Those on Facebook Live, Biz Talk Radio, hope you enjoyed Ed Livo with a lot of great information. Heading into the summer months, talking fruit trees, fruits in general. And, boy, Ed Livo, 1,000 gallons of rainwater a year?
Yeah.
I looked at John, and he looked at me when he said that.
That's not much, though. I personally would never save rainwater. It's like we get, 6 inches a year?
Right.
Yeah, there's not enough to save.
That's 1,000 gallons. And for you, John.
What are you going to do with it?
Well, I mean, you have thousands of roses you could water with it, and the roses would probably like that water better than the
water. Maybe 10% of the roses one time with all that saving. It's like,
what you're saying is we don't get enough rain to save it?
Yeah, if you. My son lives in Indianapolis, and I'm looking at their weather every week, and it's like every day is raining practically.
Yeah.
But you know what? If I were you, I would definitely do, John, is I would.
Cistern.
Well, no. I would connect my downspouts to a drainage system because you sit on top of a hill.
Right.
Okay. So if you connected your downspouts and at the top of that hill, you installed a perforated French drain, but in sense of not rather having be a French drain in the sense of capturing water, a French drain where it actually took your downspout water and then distribute it down that slope. Anything you planted on that slope would probably
have that going into the landscape.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. But I would connect it so right along that ridge, right. And that way anything on that slope, you would probably not have to have an irrigation system because even that 6 inches of rain coming every year on that landscape area,
but it comes in a 2-week period.
Yeah, but it would still soak into that soil, I think, and then it'd just migrate down your slope.
Well, I do have that.
Where do you have your downspouts connected, and then where does it go from there?
Some of them go into the flat area around the house, and the others go out to the hillsides.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely utilize you. So you are to some degree capturing it and putting it where you want it.
And I saw how much I captured the last couple of days trying to dig holes. There wasn't a drop of water anywhere on those hillsides.
A lot of people make the mistake of putting their downspouts and they just take it right off of their property. they make it where the water just goes straight into the street,
down the
or
driveway. No,
down
no.
the driveway. You don't want to do that. You want to redirect that downspout water into a landscape area for sure.
All right. I will concede that there might be some areas and some applications where it's good to save water.
Okay, I'm going to mark that so that we can play that back.
John's concession speech happened.
44:35 into the show.
Going back to last hour, we were talking about Ken and Escondido's problems with the weevils on his, or beetles on his queen palms, right?
Yeah.
And Jose in San Diego says that he's a certified arborist, and he's seen beetles kill queen palms, Bismarckias, and Mexican fan palms, and Guadalupe palms.
And by the way,
the last couple of years,
these were queen palms that Ken was talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah.
But which is good news in terms of like it's not an expensive tree, not an expensive palm. You can replace those.
Well, the big problem, because of their expense and because of how long they take to grow, are the Canary Island date palms.
Yeah.
So that's where that gets all the press. But according to Jose, there's lots of other problems with various palms.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll find some good solutions for this.
Well, Ken's solution is that he's going to have more room for roses.
I did see
saw
that
that
comment too, because
Okay, put the roses.
although I will say queen palms don't take up too much room, so it's only one rose.
They don't. And John, those queens that you gave me took off. They're still in a pot. They're 20 feet high. They just a little water now and then.
Yeah.
They're just not much upkeep, and they look good. They look really good.
Yeah, I really like palm trees.
John, I have a
big palm
question.
guy.
By my pool, when I bought the home, there were 3 queen palms located by my pool. One died right away.
And right when you bought it and signed the papers?
Yeah, that one died right away. Not
Next
a big
day.
deal. They were like small, like they just planted them for the sale of the house kind of a thing. I left the other 2 just because I was like, they're fine for now. Now they're getting to that point where it's going to be a little bit more difficult to remove. So I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, these got to go. Would you plant a Kentia palm or a king palm in their place? If I only gave you those 2 options, don't go into your mind and all these other palms that are out there in the world.
And don't try to steer him away from palms.
Because John's going to be like, oh, well, I would plant. But a Kentia palm
or king?
Or king.
Well, you could do either because of where you live.
Right.
I would say I probably would lead towards a king.
Yeah.
I like Kentia.
I do, yeah. I'm having a tough time. I can't decide.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Why would you lean towards king?
I think because they take more sun. And I think they're just going to be an easier tree to grow.
Yeah.
And grow a little more quickly than a Kentia.
Agreed to that for sure.
But I don't know, the beauty of a Kentia is really hard
Right,
to
there's
beat.
the difference.
Yeah.
Aesthetics versus maintaining and care.
But king palms are nice too. They've got that nice crown shaft.
Yeah. I'm trying to, because my neighbor at the nursery, he's had a Kentia in his front yard for a long time. It looks gorgeous.
The house right next door?
To the nursery.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, that looks gorgeous. But it's also, I know, been there for 20 years. And to get to that point, it takes that long.
Now, there is a king palm that has a purple crown shaft.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that would be the one to put in.
Yeah, that would be, huh? Gotta find.
See, we allow him to go a little deeper.
I see. I know. That's why I said only those 2 options. Because if I had said,
well, I thought you were going to talk about how Kentias are native to the Lord Howe Islands. Because I think the real genus is Howia, right?
Howia.
Yeah. And that's the only place they're endemic to, I believe.
Lord Howe.
Yeah.
So after he got off Gilligan's Island,
the Howells.
Not Howell.
They went to another island, and then they got stuck
You
there.
mean Thurston and Lovey?
Yeah.
Moved to that island by themselves, right?
It was How, like in How Now, Brown Cow.
The Howe Islands.
Ken also had mentioned that he put 10 yards of mulch around his roses.
Wow.
I'm wondering if, I'm going to mulch all my roses, but I'm going to use wood chippings. Do you think that would be all right?
From
my son.
Jesse that just is going to have truckloads and truckloads of wood
Right.
chippings throughout his whole
Right.
life coming to your house. You're gonna have
I'm
a
going to have to
layer.
fertilize, though,
You're
right?
gonna have a layer of compost. There will be a day, maybe not in your lifetime, but there will be a day when your property will be just complete organic material.
Yeah.
And
Maybe.
you'll only need a shovel to dig into it.
Maybe. It used to be an avocado grove, so you would think you've got great soil there, but they did so much grading for the house and stuff that
They
we
took
went
all the
down to
nutrients,
bedrock.
everything's gone, all the
Yeah.
biological activity is wiped out.
Because I mean, in an avocado grove, even if it had been there for 80 years, it probably only had about a foot to a foot and a half of like organic on the top.
Oh,
you
I
think?
don't know.
You know,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm
the
saying.
avocados had been dead for years and years.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So even something like it takes centuries to get feet,
Right.
multiple feet of compost material.
But now
on a
I've got
floor.
Inches.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Starting over
I
again.
literally cannot, around my house, if I'm planting the landscape, cannot dig more than maybe an inch or 2 inches with a shovel.
I think the best example of John's soil is by his garage, where they just basically like cut back a slope, and it was basically cutting a rock in half to make a slope.
Yeah.
And there's nothing John has to do to retain that. Like normal people would be like, "Oh, this slope is close to my house. I should plant some things on it to make sure it doesn't slide down or like move." John's like, it's a rock. It's not going anywhere.
Hey,
I
was
don't
there any
need to-
part of the natural landscape, speaking of rocks, that you left there, said, hey, let's build around it or let's make it part of our landscaping, part of our house?
No. No.
It's too bad there wasn't like a big rock,
Yeah.
like right where you want to build the house, and then you figure out like a foyer or something. You leave the rock there,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
build around it,
I've seen that done. It looks really cool,
Right.
but I didn't have any.
and there's this
anything
big
like
rock that you could never move anyway if you wanted to, but you build around it.
when
The natural part of our property is the tree pit down
Okay.
by the ravine.
Right.
That's the only thing that stayed the same.
when with the house that I grew up in, when my parents built a swimming pool, there was a rock that they dug out of the hole that was about the size of your desk here, Brian.
This whole
And-
thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so rather than
We got to take a break. Hold on.
All
We're going to
right.
hear the rock story. Tiger's rock story. Stay with us here. We do have to take a break for our sponsors on Biz Talk Radio. Those on Facebook Live, back even quicker. And plenty of time. Questions, comments in the chat, Facebook Live. Dial us up. And I don't mean dial us by the phone. I mean dial us up in terms of typing away on Facebook, John. Dial us up with your chat. Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live, Tiger Palafox. John Bagnasco. I'm Brian Main. Back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. Okay, here we go. Stand by. As we say, stand by. Here we go. We are back live on Facebook Live, Biz Talk Radio, pre-recorded show from last week. Want to get right back into it. Tigers folks had a swimming pool. They built a swimming pool, and there was a rock within the landscaping, and then what happened?
well, there was a rock that when they were building the swimming pool, they had to dig out of this hole, right? And it was a massive rock, probably about, I don't know, 8 feet long, 6 feet wide, 2.5 feet tall. And so, initially they're like, oh, we're going to just haul away this rock. And then, the people said, well, this is what it's going to cost to haul away this rock. And so my parents were like, well, let's just leave it on the property somewhere then. And, they put it by the edge of the swimming pool because they'd be like, oh, maybe we can jump off of it and go in the swimming pool. And they're like, ooh, that sounds like a bad idea too. So then they set it back a few more feet.
So they didn't haul it away. They just moved it around?
Yeah. They put it back a few more feet away from the edge of the swimming pool. So it just became part of the landscape. And
Right.
it was really neat and really cool part of the landscape. So like you're saying, sometimes, things that you have on your property make really good accents
Yeah,
for
just
the
use
landscape
it.
in general.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you grew up with a pool.
They got a swimming pool when I was in middle school, I think. So I didn't grow up with a pool, but I had a pool for
They
a
said to
good
themselves, he's only got a few more years left with us.
Yeah.
Let's build a pool. When
Yeah.
Tiger moves out, then we can enjoy
Well,
it.
you grew up with an ocean.
Yeah.
I did an ocean and a bay.
Wow.
I was right across the street from Mission Bay, and then the Pacific Ocean was a block and a half west, right next to the Catamaran Hotel. So we surfed, we water skied, we had boats. I thought every kid had that,
Yeah. Duh.
But yeah, John brings up a good point.
Ed was mentioning how bad his soil was up there.
Yeah.
East of San Francisco, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And Jan online is in Brentwood up in the Bay Area. She says her soil's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it just depends where you are. Of course, she used to have horses. I don't know
Oh,
if she still
wow.
does. So
Yeah, if
that's
any area
one of
that
the
has
best thing that you can have.
horses or some
Right.
kind of area where they have lots of manures, they're just going to definitely be spreading that all over the surrounding homes, and everybody's going to be able to
Well,
use
John's
that.
a good manure spreader.
Yeah, he's a good manure spreader.
It's always
He's
been
full
one of
it.
your favorite words, Brian.
Ma,
Ma and newer.
Newer.
Yeah, it's two good things.
great word. Good things. Okay, what's on your mind? If you want to dial us up, or I should say, like I say, dial us up. Type your questions, comments on Facebook. John?
I was going to mention that, you're talking about saving rainwater. And when I was visiting Joe, Gina, one's my son,
One's
one's
Indiana,
my daughter.
One is Idaho.
Right. Well, the one in Idaho, we went by, went to visit someone who watered their roses by flood irrigation.
Oh, really?
They had a canal, and apparently all the water in Indianapolis is free.
Indianapolis or
Boise.
Idaho?
Boise is free.
Yeah.
Really? Because they're just trying to get rid of it?
No, they're not trying to get rid of it, but there's just so
Too much?
much that I think it's free.
Yeah.
It's like river water and down from the mountains. I'm not sure. I'm sure someone out there knows more than I do.
If Rick is tuned in, which I haven't seen Rick's name yet this week.
But when they go to, when she goes to water during the summer, because you're looking at last year was a whole month of over 100 degrees.
Yeah.
They just, I think they have 2 days a week where they can water, and they block off the canal and divert the water onto their property, and then pump it down into the little canals and
Sweet.
flood irrigate
Boy,
there.
that's nice, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's just a different place when you live in an area with water where like you have an excess of it. Because, as you mentioned, as we talked, John, in England, they just don't install irrigation systems because they have water. And if you go up into Portland, they don't have irrigation systems in their lawns either because they just have water. So when they go through those times where they don't have water,
Right.
A, it's very difficult for them, and B, they start to realize like, oh wow, we have to there's so much infrastructure here for water, piping and canals and lakes and all of
the
that.
whole delivery system.
Yeah, that's why it costs a lot for us. It isn't just because it's water, it's because there's so much that goes into getting that water to us or saving it, kind of a thing.
Well, it was so funny when we were in England. What brought home the fact that they're not used to droughts is that they had these great landscapes, and they were watering them with watering cans.
Yeah.
They'd fill up a watering can and then go and
walk over, water these plants, go get the watering can again. I'm like,
back and forth.
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
I guess
I would just get those big sprinklers on the tripod and just have it water my whole area if I was them. Yeah.
I don't think they use them here anymore, but back in the Midwest, the sprinkler that was great for watering was the walking sprinklers.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys still sell those?
No.
You hook them up to your hose, and then you put there's a little wheel, a tracking wheel at the end of the sprinkler that you fold back over the hose. And as the sprinkler would turn on the hose, it would move the wheels of the sprinkler. So it would follow the whole area where you had laid out
So
the
the
hose.
wheels of the sprinkler go round and round.
They do. They do.
I was always amazed when you drive through the valley or a farm area and you see those big sprinklers on the wheels, on the pipe, and that those are just moving through the field as they're watering. I always thought that was awesome because what a great way to just have this big arm of sprinklers just moving straight down a field.
It makes sense.
Hey, Jan in Brentwood mentions that she also flood irrigates.
Really?
And I wouldn't think of that for that area, right?
No.
But she says they have an irrigation district and that they flood every 2 to 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I would think that it'd be very difficult, meaning the where you get the water from and where you want it to go to, but everybody's got their own little niches there. And I wonder what water they use for flood irrigating. Is it reclaimed water that came from a municipality? Is it just a lake water that captured it from rivers or rain or coming down a mountainside or something? Because when I'm thinking flood irrigation, I'm thinking it's got to come from some kind of river.
And your daughter just answered, John.
Oh, about Boise?
We have free irrigation in the spring and summer. Not all housing tracts have it.
By the way, had my daughter not moved to Idaho, I would not have known it was Boise.
And not Boise?
And not Boise.
Yeah, Boise is the correct pronunciation.
Yeah. But anyway, she says that they have free irrigation in the spring and summer. And not all housing tracts have it.
All right.
There's a lot of housing tracts up there.
Yeah.
They're just building like crazy.
One day that will go away. Everybody will get charged for their water.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure.
Hey, that said, we're going to take a break. We have 2 more segments left. Plenty of time for you to chat with us on Facebook Live. As I've said a couple of times before, dial us up, but do it the modern way. Punch that keyboard, Facebook Live, questions, comments. Going to take a break after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. This is Garden America. Okay, we are back from the break. Thank you for tuning in to Biz Talk Radio. By the way, this show will be uploaded today on our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show. Be sure to visit us on our website, gardenamerica.com. We'd love to see some traffic through there. Check it out and see what you think. Right now, though, we are back. We're talking gardening, horticulture, landscaping. Horticulture enthusiasts are invited to tune in each and every week. Even if you're not a horticultural enthusiast, we welcome you.
I was on Ed's site, which was tomorrowsharvest.com.
Yep.
Is that what it was? And I was looking for jujubes, and I didn't see any.
The candy?
I can't. Do you even see those in movie theaters anymore?
I haven't been to a movie theater.
Do you even see movie theaters anymore?
I went last week.
Or you saw Doctor Strange?
In the Multiverse of Madness. It was.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great movie. It wasn't horrible, but not.
You going to go see Top Gun Maverick?
No, I didn't even see the first one.
This one, I saw a 9-minute preview.
Uh-huh.
They actually made the actors go through pilot training. They had to go into water. They spun them around. They took them up in the jets to see how many G-forces that they could actually withstand, because they're really doing it in the movie.
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed
Really?
by it. So we'll see. Next week, we're going to have a special feature, a segment. Tiger's going to bring in his movie reviews, the ones he likes, and John's going to bring in the ones that you should avoid.
Yeah.
To answer your question earlier, Tiger, Jan says that the riparian rights are from the San Joaquin Delta.
Oh, okay. Delta. Yeah, that's a good way to then flood the land, a little delta water. So what about your jujube?
Oh,
Yeah.
I
never
want
finished.
jujubes because the common name's Chinese dates, right?
Yep.
The genus is Ziziphus. Ziziphus jujube.
Don't ask me.
Ziziphus jujube.
But anyway, they're drought-tolerant trees, and so you've got kind of an ornamental drought-tolerant fruit tree. You can eat them fresh when they're crunchy, or you can let them dry, and they're more date-like. It's not a true date, of course, but it's something that there's a little orchard in Escondido, and people drive from L.A. Every year just to purchase those when they're
really?
ready. But for a good drought-tolerant tree, but I was looking on Ed's site because I wanted to see, there's some new varieties, and I wanted to see which one was the best. Usually sweeter would probably be better. So
See, that's one of the hard things about fruit trees, right? You can say you like pears, and I want a pear tree. But then you go down the rabbit hole of all the pears that are out there, and it's which one do I plant? I mean, obviously there's restrictions with chill hours or, where it will grow and where it can't grow for
And the answer is
varieties.
going to be usually, the ones I buy in the store. The ones that we all like.
Well, but I mean, that's got to be the hard thing too, is just figuring out which one you want to get. And just like John mentioned, he just mentioned jujube, but there's a lot of varieties of jujube.
Right.
So now you got to pick which one of those ones that you think you will like the most.
And you probably don't have enough information to know which one to pick.
All you get is usually the descriptions. I mean,
Right.
it's very rare. Maybe sometimes you can go to a farmer's market where maybe a grower has 4 or 5 varieties of something,
And you can taste
and you
it.
can taste
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
You're like, ooh, I really like that pear, or I really like that plum. So I'm going to buy those plums and grow them. But at a grocery store, no. I mean, if you live in San Diego County, though, too, the other place that you can go to is specialty produce. They have a wide range of different fruit and unique fruit. But that is the hard part of getting fruit trees is which one do you
Right,
want? And it's a commitment because even, as Ed mentioned, he's selling their trees online, little 3-gallon containers. You get it home. So you're not going to get fruit from that tree for what? 3 years? 2 years?
Yeah, depending on what it is.
Yeah. You're not going to really get something from it for a couple years. Yeah. So you're already committed to it before you even know if you like it or not.
Yeah.
Well, putting trees in your garden is like furniture in your house. You can't put 5 or 6 couches.
No. No.
One maybe a love seat. So for the average home, you get a couple trees. Yeah. Unless you keep them pruned like Ed does, and with the summer pruning, you really can't keep them.
I think you ought to read your latest little post from your daughter there.
Uh-oh. You're in trouble?
Let's see. How about I read it as I'm speaking it?
Yeah,
Is that okay?
Sure,
Am I going to be shocked at the end?
No, it's funny. It's a funny post.
All right. Well, Gina says, growing up, Dad would always make us taste all of the unusual fruit. Can't say I was a fan of most, but it's always fun to try new things.
Yeah.
And sometimes as you get older, you do develop a taste for something you didn't like when you were young.
I have to admit that usually I would make them eat something that I didn't really care for. It's like, here, try this.
Hey, what do you think? I can see you doing that.
We did have a lot of unusual fruits. Tiger's talking about how long it takes for a fruit to develop, and I'm thinking of Jabata Caba.
Oh, yeah, first to my mind,
Yeah,
too.
Jabata Caba.
It takes 20 years for them to fruit.
Yeah.
And mine came in a fruit. I was fascinated by Jabata Caba.
And he wasn't impressed.
Well, I was fascinated because they flower on the trunk.
That is cool.
And on the stems. And
give it to a 5-year-old. By the time he's 25, it's good to go.
Yeah.
And anyway, when they do mature, you get tons of fruit, and it wasn't that great. It's like, I waited 20 years for this.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a heck of a commitment.
Talking about unusual fruits, just yesterday I learned, and you might have known this, Tiger, but jackfruit, that the seeds are edible.
No, I didn't know the seeds were edible.
Yeah, apparently the seed...
Like just fresh, how did you find this out? Is it just fresh, like you just bite the seeds?
Or do you take them out and prepare them?
Or is it like corn where you maybe like boil them or something?
I think you can eat them fresh, but they do use them in different recipes too.
Yeah, because like that whole like the old, not the golden white sweet corn that we eat nowadays, but that old school corn that had the big kernels and stuff. You would never eat that fresh, like you would, you had to like make them into something. So I didn't know if the jackfruit was like a similar process as far as like you had to make it into something, or you can eat the
I don't
seed.
think it was that hard. It sounded like something that maybe Asians do a lot more, since that's where the fruit is native to.
Very common to find it there. Yeah.
There's a lot of Asian fruits that we're just not that familiar with.
Well, I mean, and it's just so funny because, like you say, you go down a rabbit hole. Even in jackfruit, there's a ton of varieties of jackfruit. What was it? Tatiana's Top Tropicals? I can't remember. They had a few.
Well, there's a dwarf jackfruit.
I think they had like 4 or 5 varieties of jackfruit on their website.
And I
didn't
think
even know there was 4 or 5.
They'll grow in San Diego.
Yes. Yeah. That's a pretty cool one to grow from the look of it. I can't say I don't enjoy jackfruit, so I would never grow it to have the jackfruit, but it's a cool plant
I think it's the world's largest fruit.
I think
Could
so.
that be? You're
I don't
looking
know.
at like 35 to 40 pounds.
Yeah.
For fruit hanging off a tree.
Yeah, it's definitely something
fruit.
cool to have if you grow.
Just don't fall asleep under it, right?
Right? Yeah. That would take you down worse than a coconut.
It's like coconuts take out people every year.
Yeah. Jackfruit would crush you.
Gina mentioned that she almost likes chestnuts.
Yeah, that was something else that
was
you would
something
do
you
every
forced
year.
down their throat.
I did every year because I had chestnuts growing up. And, and if you go to Italy, actually, I think some places in New York too, right?
Right, exactly.
They have chestnut vendors.
And everything.
Get a little cup of hot chestnuts.
And we like to pass on to our children what we had.
Right.
Yeah, this is the music I listen to. You listen to it. This is what I ate. You eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't understand why the younger generation doesn't like the same music we did.
Right. Well, you know what? I tell you, a lot of them do, though, circling back, because there's a lot of them on YouTube now that go back and they're listening to all this. They're like, wow, this is really good. This is excellent. I'm talking about some young millennials.
I always liked it. I mean, this happened to me growing up. So I think you guys were definitely in the generation of new music. Like everything you heard was new. Okay.
Because you went from 56 rock and roll, as they say, the birth of rock and roll, whatever, into the 60s.
Yeah, it's all new. For me, I'd listen to a song and my dad would like, that's a remake, of another song that was back in the day. And now my kids are doing that whole thing where they're listening to music. I'm like, oh, that's a remake from back when I was in high school. Like, no way.
I was talking to a younger person last week and mentioned Simon and Garfunkel, and they had no idea who I was talking about. And I said, you're kidding. And they go, no, who's that? And I said, you never heard Sounds of Silence? And they go, oh, yeah, by Disturbed.
Exactly. And on that note, we're going to take a break. One more segment coming up here on Garden America for your Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Again, don't go away yet. Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live, one more segment with your friends here on Garden America. Okay, we have made it to the final segment here on your weekend. Happy Memorial Day weekend to you. Hopefully you have 3 days off. A lot of people do. Some don't, so take us with you if you'd like. You can go to our YouTube page, Garden America Radio Show, rewatch this show or other shows. Go to our website, gardenamerica.com. Anything you missed, it's all right there. Digital, streaming, terrestrial too, on Biz Talk Radio.
Nobody commented on, I don't know how many people are actually watching us, and if you're listening on the radio, I'm sorry for this portion, but nobody commented on our new camera shots today.
I don't know if today's the day to brag about them.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
no,
it's not terrible.
No,
it's a little jumpy. I'm going to work on that next week. But
Tiger's done a great job. We've got new camera shots, new angles. The video today is a little bit jumpy. We know why that's happening.
Yep.
We are going to send this to our IT and engineering development department this next week. In short, that would be Tiger. And we'll try to smooth that out for you next week. But, yeah, I think you've done a great job. I like these shots.
Yeah.
Let's keep these shots.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think
you've done a good job.
Makes the show flow pretty well and gets a good angle of all of us.
Sure. Just a little bit better. As the show grows, we can do things like this.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a Patreon page, do we?
Patreon page. We can send out little license plate covers.
Yeah,
and I'm a supporter of Garden America.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Or wait, where's my T-shirt?
Yeah.
There's another one. When are you guys going to do T-shirts? Anyway, though, good job, Tiger. Today does look good.
Tiger, Tanya says that she wonders if we know an expert on rain capture systems for homeowners.
I saw that.
And maybe she'd like to do a show on it.
Yeah, so
there are some books that have been written on it, so maybe you could get hold of somebody who...
Yeah, no, I know a few people, Tanya, and we'll just have to make sure it's a show when John's not here because, as he mentioned before, he's not a fan of capturing rainwater. But I am. I am a big fan of capturing rainwater, and I will look for someone to line that up. It is a funny topic to schedule for the summer because that's not when it actually is working.
But you can
But
prepare
you can
for the
plan
rainy
for it,
season.
getting
Absolutely.
Well, wait
into
a
the
second.
fall.
You're talking about California. It is when it's working in the rest of the country.
That is true.
It's raining all summer, right?
Yeah. So yeah, no.
So maybe John should be here. Maybe we'll change his mind.
Yeah, because I think I'm a huge advocate for capturing rainwater and utilizing it into the landscape. So yeah, I'll look for that, Tanya. Thank you very much.
You going to read Jimmy's?
Yeah, Jimmy says that he wants to thank Tiger because he picked up 160 pounds of Milorganite this week.
Okay, did
Way
you hear
to
that
go,
again?
Jimmy.
160 pounds. If that's not a good advertisement for Milorganite.
Now,
But he did it in a bunch of bags, not
Sure.
one bag.
Yeah, of course.
now I'm trying to think, Jimmy. That's not Point Loma, right?
Oceanside.
He's
Oceanside.
Oceanside Jimmy. Yeah, you're thinking of Keith.
Keith. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, where's he gonna put that much Milorganite?
Well, he's set to go for a long time.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't been able to get it for a while, so I think
Yeah,
he's
going to make sure.
restocking and
Right.
saving it.
Yeah. No, good job, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what to get because I don't have any Milorganite up by me. I was looking.
No,
And,
you're
I'm not
also
sure how many bags I would need because I've got to fertilize everything that I just put in the ground. So that's 100 roses last week, all the fruit trees, all the shade trees, all
So
the ornamentals.
Are you converting? Is biosol just too expensive now for you?
I can't find it anymore.
Oh, you can't find it now
No.
either? So it's not only was it super expensive the last time you saw it, but you can't even find it now?
The last I heard, there was one bag available for $160.
Which
Yeah.
is why you can't find it, and which is why the price was up. You know, yeah.
Because
you're gonna
normally it's
switch over to
around
Milorganite?
$45 or $50,
Yeah.
unless somebody can tell me where to get biosol.
Yeah. And what about Grow Power?
That's a good idea.
Do you like that? I like Grow Power
Yeah.
too. And Grow Power you can find for John's situations, you can get large bags of Grow Power. And the Grow Power Plus has humic in it. So it's kind of like that biosol Milorganite aspect
Right.
too.
He bought two 80-pound bags.
Nice.
80-pound.
Yeah. We only have them in the landscape because we just bring them in for the landscape.
Really? Wow.
Now we don't bring in the retail bags
Right.
anymore.
I'm impressed that Jimmy was able to get those 80-pound bags home.
He's in
Yeah.
shape.
Wow. 80 pounds.
Way to go.
So how much is I know we're doing a radio show, but I'm concerned about my landscape.
Yeah.
So one of my questions is roughly what size bag for the Grow Power Plus and how much do they cost?
We only sell the retail Grow Power Plus. So the
Okay.
biggest I have is a 20. But I know that they come in the 40-pound bags too.
Okay.
I don't know how much they are. But
Maybe you could check for me.
I'll find for you. Yeah. I'll find out for you. Because I like Grow Power Plus too. In terms and when you compare Biosol, Grow Power Plus, and Milorganite, I think Grow Power is a stronger formulation in the sense of
Right.
the NPK.
Right.
Like Milorganite's a lower, Biosol's even lower, but you're getting more. I think also you're getting lower NPK, but you're getting better soil conditioning aspects of
Right.
the fertilizer.
Well, had my landscape been in for a while and the soil already activated, I probably would just use Milorganite because you just got to keep that going.
Yeah.
But I do need to get some of the humic acids
Yeah,
into
you do.
the soil.
You really do.
Okay.
And especially, real quick,
we
especially
got
if
about a
he's going to
minute.
be
You're good to
using the wood chippings. You had mentioned you're going to have to fertilize
Right.
with those wood chippings.
Right.
Humic acid is going to be super important when
Right.
you add that organic material to just blatant or wood chips, and especially since they're
I
coming
don't know
from
if blatant's a good
wood.
description for wood chips.
bland. I was going to say bland.
Oh, okay.
And especially since you're going to be getting a mixture because, as Jesse works around, you could be getting avocado, you could be getting pine, you could
Right.
be getting all kinds of mixes of mulch.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Jimmy says that might as well go with the Milorganite because it smells almost like the biosol.
Hey
Yep.
guys, I think we did it.
All right.
We finished the. We're in the last furlong. We finished up the last furlong for today's
Yeah.
show.
Wow. Do we have a guest for next week yet?
Yes, we do.
I always ask Tiger, and he
At the very end
looks
of the
up in
show.
his phone, and it always impresses me that you can do that.
Bill Stingle with Summit Chemicals. So we're
Okay, so
talking
there you go.
mosquitoes and just in time for summer.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, those on Biz Talk Radio, those of you on Facebook Live. We appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for spending some of your time with us here on Garden America. For the entire crew, Tiger Palafox, John Bagnesco, I'm Brian Main. Till next week, till next time, have a safe week. Be good to each other. Enjoy Memorial Day.
And get growing.
And get growing.